What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Sly Geordie, and welcome back to F1 25 driver career mode for the Belgian Grand Prix. But if you missed last episode, it was a pretty miserable Grand Prix for us at our home race and the first pointless finish of the season for us as we came home in P15. Just really high tire wear, a lot higher than I genuinely thought it would be, and for my driving style, which is always flat out, to be quite honest, yeah, it just completely ate my front left tire away. And the thing about Silverstone that I didn't actually mention last episode, but the most important part of the track to stay ahead on, or the most important parts of the track to stay ahead on, which is the old pit straight and the back straight, both have pretty harsh right turns before them, and those right turns put a lot of wear on the left fronts. So yeah, we picked up a lot of tire wear on that, and we ended up really falling away towards the end of the race. We were running in P6 before then, but yeah, it's a bit of a shame, and maybe I should have, no, I definitely should have took a lot more care for my tires. But we now go into a Grand Prix that I've always been pretty strong at. I have always done well at Spa, so I am looking forward to it. Very much so. We also have a bunch of new upgrades coming in. The gearbox reliability testing, I don't really care too much about. Hajar does all the durability stuff all the time. But we've got the front wing end plates and front nose cone structure, which I'm pretty sure is, yeah, both chassis and aerodynamics, and they are both major upgrades. So two major upgrades going into Spa could be absolutely huge. And unfortunately,
we've had a major issue on the production line earlier this week, and the entire development package for the weekend has failed. Any redevelopments will need to be ordered from the R&D screen.
Well, luckily for us, the redevelopment of which, because we're into the summer break after Silverstone, this still comes in before Spa, so it was really not that big of a deal. If this next one fails, we might be a little bit more worried. There you go. So we're going to have two major upgrades going in to the next Grand Prix. We've got development failed on the durability, but I don't really care too much about that. We've got a bunch of resources now that we could probably put towards something, or at least look at something. We've got 2 days before that aerodynamic upgrade comes in. We've got a bunch of chassis upgrades now unlocked, so we can really focus on that. And we're still pretty far low down the order when it comes to our chassis, but we're at least kind of on par with Williams and Alpine. So if we could get some more upgrades in for the chassis, that will be big for us. In terms of the aerodynamics, we've actually caught up to the top guys in the pack, which is always good. Powertrain wise, we've still got the best powertrain on the grid, which is always good. So all we need to do is start pushing that chassis up, which is honestly, I think, pretty important towards the tyre wear, if I remember rightly, from F1 23. So I think it will be more or less the same here. But let's go into this race weekend, and we got a cutscene.
Thank you for joining us, and the track action will be getting underway very shortly. I've got Anthony Davidson, Naomi Schiff alongside me. Before we focus on that, Naomi, I'd just like us to consider some of these big rumours that are circulating at the moment about driver moves up and down the paddock. Just how distracting is it to focus on putting in strong performances at the same time as negotiating your future?
Well, it can be a really big distraction, particularly for the drivers who are out of contract at the moment. And for them, it's going to be the challenge of managing what they're doing off track and compartmentalizing that from what happens on track, because we know that this next decision in their career is going to be a big one. So that can put a lot of pressure on your shoulders, but you don't want that to put so much pressure on your shoulders that you start overdriving, making mistakes, because you know in this sport, you can go from hero to zero in an instant.
You know, easier said than done, Ant. And as we pass by a driver now who's considering their future, even if you've got a contract, they're not necessarily even worth the paper they're written on. You've got to keep putting in really big, impressive performances.
It's an industry that demands perfection from not just the team, but the drivers as well, first and foremost. So if you start to relax in any way, even if you have a multi-year deal in place, like you say, not worth the paper it's written on, because you can be kicked out before you know it. If the performances start to slip, the team will have their eye on you straight away and you'll be out the door.
So no room for complacency. Let's see who can put in some big performances on track today. All the action up next. Don't go anywhere.
That's awesome. We need more cutscenes like that. Honestly, that gives me the idea of maybe, you know how I think NBA and Madden have like the halftime shows. I don't think Madden does it, but I know some of the older NBA games do it, where on the halftime show they would talk about highlights and stuff of the game. It would be really cool if we had cutscenes like this that would just talk about the season so far, or maybe just the previous race. That would just be really, really cool. And going into this is actually really surprising. This is actually a sprint weekend, which is huge. So first of all, to save myself the bother, I mean, obviously you guys will probably figure this out anyway, even if I didn't show you. I'm gonna go on to what would it be? I don't know, what would it be? Career settings? I don't know. I don't want to do the long weekend. Oh, here we go. We can just go here. So if I change the qualifying format to short, we're now going to have shorter qualifying sessions, which means a lot less stress for me editing, because the sprint weekends, they do have a lot of content, but I kind of want to do more of the races, and qualifying is a bit boring to edit. In fact, we might end up doing short qualifying for the long haul from Season 2 onwards. I am going to do a 16 race calendar from Season 2 onwards, and honestly, maybe from that point onwards, even going into new games, because 24 races is a bit grueling. Even some of the bigger YouTubers like Arava, for example, have already started doing 16 race seasons in their first season, and maybe I should have done that, but it is what it is. Nothing I'm going to worry too much about, but yes, in future for sprint weekends, we're just going to be doing short qualifying, and depending on how Season 2 feels with the 3 knockout sessions, because I still kind of want to keep those. It keeps things a little interesting. Yeah, I definitely want to think about that, that's for sure. But yeah, we got a bunch of developments that did come in, of course. Nothing, well, one thing failed, but it ended up coming in afterwards. So looking at the R&D tree now, a bunch of teams have brought in some upgrades, but we are actually legitimately the 4th best team on the grid. In fact, we're actually really close, pretty much neck and neck with Ferrari. So the chassis is, of course, still holding the team back. We could probably be a lot higher if it wasn't for that. So that's certainly something to think about. We could honestly make this one of the strongest cars on the grid, and it's supposed to just be the Red Bull Junior team. That's the beauty of using the Red Bull Junior team in the career modes. You can honestly, like, have some really interesting dynamics with the senior team, of course. But whatever. It's about time that I stop yapping now and get into sprint qualifying around Spa GP. Honestly, probably my favorite track on this game, besides Brazil and Bahrain. So yeah, that's like my top 3. Anyway, let's get on with it.
High-speed straights, heady elevation changes and dramatic corners. What is there not to love about today? It's qualifying day here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Well, here we are, finally back at the new and improved Spa GP. Of course, we only actually got to try this once, I think, in F1 24, before I ended up quitting the game. So we immediately went back to the old, outdated Spa GP. So it is good to be back at what is a very good-looking and iconic track, one of the best tracks on the calendar. It's such a shame, such a crying shame that they've decided to put this track in rotation on the Formula 1 calendar. So in F1 27, we might not have this. I think we will, since it will be on rotation. It will be one of the extra tracks, sort of how France and Portimao was still in F1 23, as well as China. But as for our qualifying session here, of course, sprint qualifying, I decided to go out on the mediums first because in the first and only practice session, I only really had access to the soft tyres and the hards. I don't tend to use soft tyres in practice sessions other than the 1 lap for qualifying pace, simply because I'll be using it in qualifying. So I can get used to how the soft tyres feel in my initial runs of Q1 and Q2, of course. Yeah, for the mediums, they weren't there, so I wanted to use them in this sprint qualifying session for a couple of laps, just to get a feel for them, just to see how quickly they wear, especially coming off of the back of a really harsh Silverstone Grand Prix, where we just couldn't deal with the tyre wear. You'll be happy to know that the tyre wear is nowhere near as demanding here in Spa. A lot of the tracks are quite quick, so there isn't enough time to really put too much stress on one part of the tyre like there is for the front left around Silverstone. Nowhere near like that at Spa, so it's really going to be a track just like Austria and Canada. A little bit more technical, of course, but not as demanding as Silverstone. So we've got a big advantage with the most powerful powertrain on the grid as I take you through this, well, our only lap that matters here in sprint quali, and we're already nearly a second up. The mediums did feel good. We'll be using those for the most part in the race. I don't know what we'll use in the sprint though. It really depends how the softs wear out, which I didn't do too much testing on. But there we go, through the bus stop section, or the bus stop chicane, across the line for a P3. So a really high position. I did feel as though that was a really good lap, but a really weird leaderboard. We've got the likes of Lando Norris and Max Verstappen not even touching the top 10. Lewis Hamilton on pole, and our teammate Isaac Hadjar in P7. That is interesting.
So it's all about speed in today's sprint. Not very many laps and no chance to get ahead on strategy. Who here today has the raw skill to take them to the top? Spa-Francorchamps then, a historic 19-corner circuit with a lap distance of 4.35 miles. There's over 100 metres of elevation change here, and with long stretches of the lap spent flat out, a good top speed will be vital for success.
What an opportunity we have here in the Spa sprint. Yuki Tsunoda doesn't have as many points as us in the driver's standings, so it's all fair game in fighting for points here and fighting for victory. We know that we can battle Lewis Hamilton. We've been battling against the Ferraris for most of the season. This is as good of an opportunity as we are going to get for a win in Formula One as the lights go out. And we are underway. Tsunoda gets a decent start. Hamilton's going to cover pretty well, covering the inside side by side with Tsunoda now through the first corner. We're going to get the elbows out. I want to make sure that we get that move done as we are now chasing Lewis Hamilton through Eau Rouge here. Wow, what a start for us. What an opportunity. P2, we could be going for our very first win. It's a sprint win, but it's a win nonetheless. As for now, we're just going to sit back behind Lewis Hamilton. I'm going to save some ERS, of course. Probably going to wait until we've got some DRS to make the move as clean as possible to make sure we don't lose any time to the cars behind, of course. As meanwhile, Tsunoda and Piastri, speaking of losing time to the cars behind, looks like we're gaining it as Tsunoda and Piastri are fighting here. Piastri got a pretty good start. Tsunoda lost us pretty quickly, mainly because we got the elbows out, I suppose. So that is a little bit of our fault right there. But Oscar Piastri in P3 now, as we now go through the bus stop chicane right behind Lewis Hamilton. He was able to gain some time on us. He does have better acceleration than us currently. Who knows though, maybe we're being a bit too tame and passive in our ERS usage. But as we exit this corner here, yeah, definitely he's getting a better exit there, getting as far as 7/10 ahead. So this is a really good chance for Lewis Hamilton to get his first victory for Ferrari. Of course, in real life, he got it a lot earlier. Here, he hasn't got it just yet. Sprint victory, I still count it as a victory personally. You know, it's still a race win, but not the full Grand Prix. Maybe we'll have to wait for some time yet, but we're looking very quick. A purple first sector there. So going on to the next lap now. Hamilton pretty slow through that corner. We're going to use some ERS to try and catch up to him on the main straight, on the pit straight here. And we've set the fastest lap. So we are the fastest car on track right now. That is a much better exit from us. And we're going to get on the ERS a lot earlier, getting the power down, going downhill here. And we are a lot closer to Hamilton this time. Just under 3/10 behind him, 2/10, just over 1/10. And we haven't even got DRS yet. The move, oh my god, a little too close for comfort right there. Luckily, we didn't get any damage, but the move has been done on Lewis Hamilton. We have taken the lead of the Spa Sprint right here. What an opportunity for us as we are now saving ERS. It's very easy to defend on this part of the lap, so we can save a lot of ERS there. And he's able to keep up with us the whole way throughout this lap, however. But I have been saving a lot of ERS, particularly towards the end of straights, you've probably noticed. And look at this, we've got a much better exit compared to Hamilton there. Maybe that's the dirty air coming into play at this stage of the Grand Prix. Piastri is quite far behind, but he might actually be close enough to get within DRS of Lewis Hamilton. And if they can start fighting, that pretty much seals the deal here. There's only 8 laps of the sprint here, so if we're going to get a win at any time of the season, it's going to be at a track that's good for our powertrain and low on tyre wear, just like the Spa Sprint. So this is a beautiful opportunity for us as we now look towards the back of the field, lap 4 still, onto our teammate Isaac Hadjar, who's actually challenging Max Verstappen. So Verstappen's in P9, Norris is in P12, so these guys are not going to be scoring points. And I think Hadjar and Verstappen have been battling for a bit longer than we think, because Stroll is actually quite far ahead. You don't see it right now, but you will be able to when we move onto the forward view here. Yeah, Stroll and Alonso quite far ahead there. They're going to be working together. Hadjar and Verstappen still fighting. They're going to be going back and forth, but we're going to redirect our view to the front here. You can see ourselves off into the distance, but it's Oscar Piastri here going to get Lewis Hamilton, who has fallen out of DRS at this point. So that Ferrari definitely doesn't have the power that the Honda power unit does. And Piastri, a little bit of trouble there trying to decide which way he wanted to go, but that is as easy as you like. A beautiful overtake for Piastri there. Those 7 points are going to be really important, especially since Norris will not be scoring in this sprint. As we now redirect our view to Max Verstappen. Lap 7, hopefully getting this move done on Isaac Hadjar for once and for all. Who knows what would have happened if Hadjar wasn't fighting Verstappen. Maybe they could have worked together to get in front of the Aston Martins, but it's going to be a double points haul for Aston Martin as Verstappen finally gets the move done on Isaac Hadjar. And Hadjar definitely thought that too much. Maybe he was battling to show off here, trying to show his skill after a pretty nightmare season for him, having scored no points versus our 100 and whatever it is at this point. As now Lando Norris is going to be the one to overtake Hadjar, but really it's for no points. It's honestly for pride for Verstappen and Norris. Verstappen will already be a bit embarrassed, you know, having fought the junior team for so long here, and the other junior car, us, in P1. That could have been Verstappen. That honestly should have been Verstappen, and maybe the short sprint qualifying caught a lot of guys off guard here, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, it is all eyes on me as we go towards the end of lap 8, the final lap here in the sprint, coming up towards the bus stop chicane, and it's a dominant win right here, quite far ahead of Oscar Piastri. It is us in the Junior Red Bull. It may be a sprint, but we have won our very first race in Formula 1. What a race that was. And yeah, we are definitely looking confident going into the main Grand Prix.
High-speed straights, heady elevation changes and dramatic corners. What is there not to love about today? It's qualifying day here at Spa-Francorchamps.
So after our first ever race win in the Spa Sprint, it is now time to get straight into qualifying for the main Grand Prix. And there's going to be a lot of hype around us to see what we can do, because it is still qualifying at the end of the day. The pace is not going to change, and we'll be looking to, at the very least, equal that P3 finish in sprint qualifying. Who knows though, the sprint qualifying, the short sprint qualifying format seemed to have caught a lot of people off guard, but this time those same guys should be prepared for it. We're doing short qualifying here. Let me know how this feels to you guys. I wasn't able to change it back to the full qualifying format, having changed the sprint one to the short one, but honestly, I think I prefer this one. So we might keep it at short qualifying from now on, which allows me more time to focus on the race. And we seem to make it to Q3 quite a lot anyway. What you might have noticed there, though, is the fuel mix is quite high. That's because of sprint qualifying, the fuel mix goes higher just in case drivers want to go onto the mediums. So when you're on the mediums in sprint qualifying, you set multiple laps in succession because there's more life in those tyres. So I actually forgot to change that for the first lap on the softs. It was still good enough for P7 at the time, as we now go on to our final lap of qualifying, the second and final lap. Currently P11, which is still pretty good by our standards, normally anyway, but this is a track that we have just won at in the sprint, and so we're looking to improve, and with the weight taken off of the car, 6/10 up, what's it going to be as we cross the line? Another P3. So, yeah, we're on for perhaps another fight for victory. Of course, it's going to be a very, very different race because tyre wear is going to be a big issue. There's also strategy as well. So we've really got to be on our A game. Our teammate Isaac Hadjar in P12, a lot of people caught off guard in the sprint qualifying, weren't caught off guard here. We've got Verstappen on pole and Piastri not too far behind.
Welcome to this visit to the Ardennes countryside. Spa-Francorchamps hosted its first Grand Prix back in 1925, and this historic track is loved by drivers and fans alike, and us here in the commentary box too. So it's a warm welcome from the Belgian Grand Prix. Spa-Francorchamps then, a historic 19-corner circuit with a lap distance of 4.35 miles. There's over 100 meters of elevation change here, and with long stretches of the lap spent flat out, a good top speed will be vital for success. And alongside me in the commentary box today, a man who I always look up to, which is easier said than done, Anthony Davidson. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
So something I didn't mention actually, and you probably noticed it if you looked at the leaderboard at the end of qualifying, Lando Norris has once again bottled qualifying. So he must be running into some engine wear now, which is a nightmare scenario for him because Verstappen, when he was running on having engine wear issues, he was still pretty consistently in the top 5, top 6. Lando Norris, though, out of the top 10, so not even in contention for the win, and we know how much cars can get spread out in the Spa race here. So Lando has got quite the recovery drive to do. In terms of us, though, it's quite interesting signs in P5, but the top 3 here, all 3 different tyre compounds. So we're on the mediums, we're going to go mediums, mediums, hards. Piastri's on the hard, so he's going to have a really long stint, and Verstappen is on the softs, as we now wait for the 5 red lights to go out. And we are underway. It's a decent start for Verstappen. It's a horrible start for Piastri on those cold hard tyres, as we are now side by side. That's right, the 2 Red Bulls in different colours, side by side, for the lead of the race here at the Belgian Grand Prix. We're going to let Verstappen go a little bit here. We don't want to go side by side into Eau Rouge, especially this early. The stakes are not that high just yet. We're going to wait for the opportunity here as Verstappen goes defensive. We're going to go on the outside here, and look at that, around the outside to take the lead in the Belgian Grand Prix. Oh my God, and we got Carlos Sainz in P3. That is absolutely insane. Charles Leclerc is in P4. Decent start for him, although I think he actually lost the position to Sainz. Piastri really struggling on those cold hard tyres. If you look in the background right there, he's actually side by side with Fernando Alonso. So Alonso battling for P5. Alonso, however, is also on hard tyres. So, yeah. Nightmare start for Piastri, considering he started in P2, but it is early days just yet. He is on the hard tyres. Let's see how those tyres carry him late on in the stint. But yeah, look at us now, ahead of Verstappen, and at this point Verstappen is definitely going to keep up with us, and if he has a much higher speed than us, then of course I'm going to not battle him hard at all. This is basically going to be like Austria all over again. But since it's so early on in the race, we could see what happens in terms of strategy. If I end up in front down to strategy, we're definitely going to go for the win. I'm not going to play any... I'm not going to let Red Bull bully me into letting Verstappen pass. But for now, even if I was on a different team, I'm not going to battle Verstappen too much, purely because I want to keep those cars behind us far away as possible. We know how the DRS trains can split here at Spa-Francorchamps, so all we've got to do is work with Verstappen to just stay ahead and use the DRS that we have on each other and Sainz's lack of DRS to just get further and further out ahead. So I am putting no fight up against Verstappen here. Even if I was on a different team, I wouldn't do it neither, because we're working with him. And on to the next lap, we are now going to retake P1. We're now 2 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz. So this strategy is absolutely working, and Verstappen, he knows what we're doing. He's going to be working with us here to let us out in front to make sure he gets DRS on the next lap. So you know, that might not be a Red Bull mandated thing. It clearly isn't, as my delusional engineer tells me to stay ahead of Verstappen until lap 9. If I'd have tried to do that, we would have lost a ton of time to the guys like Sainz, Leclerc and Piastri. And look, I may have some really good pace, but our tyre wear is worse than all of the cars around us. I cannot afford to even take the chance of fighting Verstappen this early on. There is absolutely no point in it. So I don't know why the engineer just didn't clock on to what I'm doing, but it is what it is. As we now go on to Verstappen's pit lap, we're going to take the lead once more of the Belgian Grand Prix. 2.1 seconds, 2.4 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz. So that strategy, working with Max Verstappen, really worked wonders for us right there, as we now look to push and do the best lap we possibly can going into the pits. And honestly, look at the tyre wear. That's just from one stint on the mediums. I absolutely love the tyre wear for this game. I really do. It's a complete and utter game changer, and hopefully they never change it as we now come into the pits. And funnily enough, Sainz doesn't, so we're actually undercutting the guys ahead of us. I didn't change strategy at all. We're sticking to the team's suggestion here, so I don't know what that's about, but I think it's actually because Albon's getting pit priority, which is so strange. Very, very bizarre decision making from Williams right there, as Carlos Sainz does take the lead of the Grand Prix. Maybe they think his pace is good enough. I honestly think he should have pit with us, because 2 seconds behind us is not bad at all. Honestly, that could be, he could still have a chance to maybe fight for the win and have a high position. He still could have that here, but I think it's a very bizarre decision to have Albon have the pit priority when he's nowhere near Sainz. But anyway, we're looking to make the pass on Antonelli. A very lethargic defense from him. I honestly didn't know what he was doing. I thought he was going to wait until really late on in the straight to move defensively, but he didn't. He twitched a little bit, but didn't give us a car's width. Very, very strange. Didn't leave a full space, but it didn't matter anyway because we had a lot more speed than Kimi did right there. So we take P5. Hadjar and Norris in front of us. So Hadjar's kept up with Norris pretty well. I don't know if that shows Hadjar's having a really good race or Norris is having a really bad recovery drive. He's on the hards after all, so I don't know why he was on the hards given how far back he started. Honestly, it would have been better for him to go mediums, hards, but you know, who knows? Either way, Lando's not having a really good time in this race at all, as we now move ahead to lap 12, finally catching up to Oscar Piastri here. Verstappen 7.6 seconds behind us, so a huge gap has been formed, and that's because our lap after Verstappen had pit and then our out lap were just so good that we actually gained time on Verstappen. I'm not really feeling the tyre wear too much at all, if at all. And, you know, clearly 2 laps before our pit lap, we've now got the pace to go even further ahead of Verstappen and now catching up to Piastri, looking for the move here. Piastri, he is still on those not cold hard tyres, but he's still on the same hard tyres that he was at the beginning of the race. And our little pass right there, as good as it was pretty pointless. In fact, I think we definitely didn't need to make that move. Maybe we lost time from doing it. Who knows? We definitely wasted DRS from doing it. But let's see how Piastri does here as he goes onto those mediums until the end of the race. So he'll be quicker than the hard guys, for sure. Very sus sentence right there, pause. But he'll definitely be quicker than the guys on the hards. I don't know how that will be towards the end of the race, but going on to our pit lap now, lap 14, I'm just feeling incredibly good on these mediums. We don't need to go on the hards at all. In fact, I could probably be safe on the softs. Although that would be a lot closer to puncture territory, so there's no point doing that. But we seem to be on the same strategy as a lot of people. If not, they are flipped, so they would have gone on the hards first and then the mediums, I suppose. If they probably went on a one-stop like Oscar did. Don't know where Oscar's going to end up. Right now he's in P10 as we have a pretty good pit stop right there. Carlos Sainz once again takes the lead. He's got a bit of a train behind him with Tsunoda, Alonso and Norris. Those guys, I don't know where those guys are in the grand scheme of things as we now slot in the middle of Hamilton and Norris. We're going to get DRS on Lando Norris here, fortunately. So that's going to gain us even more time against, you know, guys like Piastri and Verstappen. Piastri actually isn't too far behind us. He's just under 3 seconds behind us. Hamilton's just over a second as we now chase after Lando Norris, Fernando Alonso, and Yuki Tsunoda, as well as Carlos Sainz. I think there's a bit of a gap, yes there is, between Alonso and Tsunoda, so I don't know if there will be a couple of cars to separate them when all the pit stops are done, but we've got a good opportunity now to get ahead of these cars and actually win this race. Regardless of tyre wear, we would have been in clean air so often that for so long that it just doesn't really affect us too much, and especially since the cars behind us are not going to be within DRS neither. It's crazy. It's been a great drive for us, but we're struggling right now as we're in a lot of dirty air from the cars in front, so I'm a bit desperate. That little trip into the gravel there definitely gave me a bigger sense of urgency to get in front of these guys, of course, so I burn a little bit more ERS than usual. And look at this now, we've got a lot of overspeed looking to get in front of Norris here. He's been very awkward on the defence there. I think he was half debating on overtaking Alonso. Either way, I'm a bit frustrated by that, so I'm going to turn in early and force Norris to slow down. So in Norris's battle with Alonso, he's definitely going to have a harder time of it now. Definitely cost him about half a second or something like that. I don't know. I hope so. But there we go. As now all the pit stops are done, lap 16, Piastri is not within DRS, Verstappen's not within DRS, so a pretty lonely race for all these guys. But we're interested in this one. Charles Leclerc, pretty good strategy from him, but it doesn't matter as Sainz is the one out in P4. Leclerc manages to get in front of Tsunoda with the undercut. It's been a great race for Sainz, pretty underrated. Leclerc does manage to overtake him for fourth, though. It's not a big difference in terms of points, but the story of the day, and honestly the story of the weekend, is a huge domination of not only the sprint race, but also the full race. I said our first Formula 1 win was in the sprint, but this is official. The racing bull of us comes across the line to win our very first Formula 1 Grand Prix.
Awesome. Just amazing, mate. Well done.
A difficult race then on one of the all-time classic circuits, but they persevered to take the win here today.
Well, they showed true grit out there today, Crofty. A steely determination not to be outdone by the rough circumstances. Many points that came their way today. A job well done. Not the easiest of days, but they walk away with a race victory.
Our winners are heading to the podium right now. RB have done an exceptional job when it comes to forging new talent, and seeing them take home the victory today is a huge positive for the future of the sport.
Well, a pretty surprising race victory for us, even with the best powertrain on the grid, and how strong we have been at tracks like Canada and Austria. I genuinely didn't think a race win was going to come this season. And honestly, it wouldn't have if Verstappen was anywhere near us. Towards the end of the race, I would have let him go, because obviously we're part of the Red Bull umbrella. We want Max or a Red Bull driver to win the Drivers' Championship, but we never had to do that. We were just so far ahead, there was just honestly no point in doing that. Lando Norris does able to bring home 6 points, but Verstappen brings home a lot more, despite him not getting any points in the sprint neither. But he does extend his lead at the top of the drivers' standings. We extend our lead over Mercedes in the constructors' standings, but we're still in P4 for the drivers' standings. So in terms of the racing rivalry, though, with those wins at the sprint and the full Grand Prix, we have now equaled our ratings rival Antonelli. We're probably going to gain even more points over Piastri in the championship standings rivalry. So maybe the game had, merit on that thought. At first we were really confused as to why Piastri was the rival, but now it's making a lot more sense as we now have unlocked a third R&D secret upgrade for the car. Wow. Guys, thanks for watching. If you guys liked it, be sure to hit that like button as hard as you possibly can. Comment, share, and subscribe. And I will see you all next time for some more F1 25. Peace!